Imagine a world where gold is worthless. In the 1630s, the Spanish Empire owned the Andes, but they were being slaughtered by an enemy they couldn't see, shoot, or stab. They called it the Shaking Death. A fever so violent, it broke a soldier's spirit before it took his life.
Lowlands of Peru, the air was thick with more than just heat. It was thick with the invisible assassin. For every man killed by an Incan blade, 10 were killed by a mosquito. Even the Countess of Chinchón, wife of the viceroy, lay dying in her palace. The finest doctors in Europe were helpless.
While the Spanish died, the indigenous Quechua people lived. They knew a secret guarded by the mountain mists, a tree they called Quina-Quina. But this wasn't just medicine, it was a sacred pact between man and nature, a pact the Spanish were about to break.
The bark tasted of bitter fire. When the Countess was finally given the extract, the shaking stopped. The fire in her blood went out. The Spanish realized the true gold of the Andes wasn't buried in mines. It was growing on the trees. They named it Cinchona, after the Countess, and the race to control it began.
For 2 centuries, Spain held a monopoly that would make modern Big Pharma blush. They didn't just protect the tree, they deified it. To export a living cinchona plant was seen as an act of treason against the crown. But the British Empire was dying in the tropics of India. They needed that bark, and they were willing to steal it.
Richard Spruce didn't look like a hero. He was a sickly botanist, but in 1859 he waded into the deep Andean lungs where even the Spanish feared to tread. He spent months befriending locals, learning which trees held the highest quinine content. Under the cover of torrential rains, he began the harvest, not of gold, but of 100,000 tiny, delicate seeds. The Spanish authorities got wind of the English thief. Spruce had to race down the Andes to the coast, his seeds packed in damp moss to keep them alive. One wrong turn, one spilled bag, and history would have stayed Spanish. Against all odds, the seeds survived the Atlantic crossing. Within years, the British had planted millions of trees in India. The monopoly was shattered. The Andean gold was now a global weapon. This wasn't just medicine, it was the fuel for empires. Without that stolen bark, the map of the world as we know it would not exist.
But history has a sense of irony. By 1942, the world had forgotten the Andes. Most of the world's quinine was now coming from Java. Then, the Japanese army seized the island. Suddenly, the Allies had millions of soldiers in the Pacific and zero medicine. They were being wiped out by malaria, just like the conquistadors 300 years earlier.
The U.S. government launched a desperate mission, the Cinchona Missions. They sent scientists back into the Andes to find the original wild trees that Spruce had left behind. They used airplanes to spot the distinctive red-tinted leaves from the sky. It was a race against time and the Axis powers to reclaim the sacred bark and win the war in the Pacific.
Eventually, science isolated the miracle compound, quinine. It allowed empires to expand, it built modern medicine, and it's likely sitting in your tonic water right now. But in turning the bark into a white pill, we developed a modern amnesia. We kept the chemistry, but we lost the connection.
Today, the ancient forest has been replaced by the modern lab, sterile and cold. Quinine changed the world, but nature isn't finished with us yet. Follow the trail into the Nature Chronicles right here on Nature to Living. Hit the bell to join the expedition. Nature is calling. Are you listening?